Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Many thanks for joining us here on Razep Africa. As usual, we're here to give you all you need to know about what's going on across Africa, especially as it concerns everything that you need to have to make informed decision. Today, we would start with the news update as usual, but afterwards we'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing revitalizing primary health care in Nigeria, the funding, the reform, and future of community health. So much to unpack there, but we'll go for a short break. When we come back, it'll be time for the African news update. Stay with us.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Welcome back from that. We begin in Somaliland, where authorities are seeking support from Israel to tackle worsening drought that has left farms barren and reservoirs dry across parts of breakaway region. Officials say rainfall has become increasingly unreliable over the past 5 years, with only about 3% of land currently under cultivation. The World Food Programme estimates that 4.4 million people across Somalia, including Somaliland, are facing severe food insecurity due to prolonged drought and climate pressures. The cooperation effort follows Israel's recognition of Somaliland's independence in December. While Somalia's federal government has condemned the move as a violation of its sovereignty, Israeli officials say the focus is on civilian cooperation, particularly in water management, agriculture, and health. A first group of Somaliland water sector workers have traveled to Israel for training, with technical support expected to improve irrigation and drought resilience. Meanwhile, Chad has closed its eastern border with Sudan after a weekend clash linked to Sudan's ongoing civil war killed 5 Chadian soldiers. Authorities say fighting in the border town of Time between Sudanese armed factions left additional civilians wounded, prompting the deployment of more Chadian troops to the area. The government in Jamena say the border would remain shut until further notice, citing repeated incursions from Sudanese forces. The move underscores growing regional instability as Sudan's conflict, which began in April 2023, continues to spill across borders. And in a significant development in Great Lake region, a key border crossing between Democratic Republic of Congo and Burundi has reopened after more than 2 months of closure. The Kavimira post on Lake Tanganyika was shot in December during an offensive by Rwanda-backed M23 rebels in eastern DRC. Authorities say the crossing reopened after M23 fighters withdrew from the area and Congolese forces regained control. The border is crucial for regional trade and the movement of people, with officials reporting that displaced Congolese citizens have begun returning home. However, other crossings in rebel-held areas remain closed. Turning to South Africa, a government probe has found out a small group of immigration officials enriched themselves by selling visas and residency permit over a 20-year period. The investigation revealed that some officials received millions of rand in illicit payment, with applications allegedly fast-tracked through informal channels. A special investigating unit says the corruption was organized and deliberate, undermining public trust in the immigration system. Authorities have made hundreds of criminal referrals, while the Home Affairs Ministry says digitization of visa process is underway to curb future abuse. In Eastern Africa, Uganda is seeking to link its new railway to Tanzania's network, potentially opening a new export corridor to the port of Dar es Salaam. A government document indicates the proposed route would connect mineral-rich regions of Uganda to Tanzania, reducing support and transport costs and export time. The African Development Bank is considering funding preparatory studies for the project. If realized, the railway could also provide the Democratic Republic of Congo with an alternative trade route, strengthening regional and economic integration. And finally, in France, France has returned a looted talking drum to Côte d'Ivoire more than a century after it was taken by colonial troops in 1916. The Digi Ayokwe drum, once used by the Ebrier people to transmit messages, is among hundreds of artifacts earmarked for restitution under a new French legislation. The 3-meter-long drum will permanently be displayed in a new museum in Abidjan. The return marks another step in France's border efforts to address restitution claims from former colonies seeking the repatriation of cultural heritage. That's it for the African Global News Update right there. But now we are going to get into that interview that I promised you earlier, where we'll be discussing the revitalization of primary health care in Nigeria, the funding, the reform, and future of health care in the country. In the studio, we have Dr. Douglas Emeka Oko. He is a consultant neurosurgeon and the foremost advocate for healthcare reforms. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you very much, Joy, for having me, and thank you to Global TV for having me as well.
Absolutely. Now, the Nigerian primary health care is meant to be the foundation of the country's health system, the first point of contact for millions of Nigerians, especially in rural and underserved communities. Yet across the country, many healthcare centers still struggle with poor infrastructure, inadequate staffing, irregular drug supply, and weak accountability systems. In recent years, the federal government has announced some funding committed to strengthen health care. Through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, billions of naira have been earmarked for revitalization facilities, improving maternal and child health services, expanding immunization coverage, and driving Nigeria closer to universal health coverage. Now, reports indicate that thousands of primary healthcare centers have undergone varying degrees of revitalization, while new allocations in 2025 budget signaled what a lot of people may say renewed commitment to the sector, while that is very arguably. But a critical question remains: are these investments translating to real measurable improvement at the community level? Well, today, Dr. Douglas Oko, consultant neurosurgeon, who, as a respected Nigerian healthcare reform advocate, would talk about the systemic reforms that's necessary, accountability in health financing, and strengthening Nigeria's health institutions from the grassroots up. Now, thank you again for being part of this program, and I'm happy we're discussing this very important topic that a lot of people are most affected by, especially those who really deserve it. And like you always say, the Nigerian patient
Are worth it.
Are worth it, yes.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, Dr. Ko, as both a specialist, clinician, and healthcare reform advocate, how would you assess the current state of primary healthcare facilities? There's so much to discuss. I mean, before we get into the 36 million capital budget release, which Nigerians are folding their arms and wondering.
You can say I'm smiling and laughing.
Revitalization of the healthcare. Let's just talk about, first of all, holistically, what you think of our primary health care facilities across the nation.
So, Joy, in your intro, you talked about that the primary healthcare system is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm going to break it down slowly. So we'll start from what we call the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
Okay, there are 17 of them. So when you start counting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 3 is actually healthcare, and number 4 is education. Okay. Then we go to healthcare itself. Healthcare is a system. That's one of the things I try to tell people. Healthcare is a system. It's not about a doctor or a nurse. It's a system. And usually it's a complex system. And there are about 6 components of a healthcare system. So the first one is governance and institutions. Second one is funding and financing. Third one is about the healthcare service delivery itself.
Absolutely.
Okay. And of course, when you look in Nigeria, there are 3 levels of health service delivery. There's the tertiary level care, there's secondary level care, and there's primary care, which we want to actually talk about now. Okay. Then the 4th one is actually the healthcare workforce itself. Okay, the people who actually provide this care on the ground and stuff. And then the 5th one is about consumables, pharmaceuticals, vaccines and stuff like that. And the 6th one is about information systems and digital technology and stuff like that. So let's talk about the one I talked about, the health service delivery.
Absolutely.
Okay, so primary health care is supposed to be the bedrock. Okay, so what do you, so let's use Abuja, for example, as a case study. Okay, Abuja has 6 local governments and has 62 wards. Okay, so let's say if we wanted to just be minimalistic, okay, let's say, okay, each ward, we hope that each of the 62 wards will have a primary healthcare center.
Right.
Facility. Okay, so what would we like to see? What's the ideal primary healthcare center? What should it look like? Okay, so that even if we are pursuing, we can say, oh yeah, okay, we've gotten what we want. So number 1, you need the healthcare workforce. Okay, at least that healthcare workforce should include community health extension workers, community health officers, pharmacy technicians, and laboratory technicians. At least.
At least?
At least.
Okay. For some of us who have visited primary healthcare facilities, we've not seen this much.
Okay, so at least because we're creating an ideal now. Because you should know what you're looking for. If you're trying to push one, so that's the ideal. We should have a building at least. We have many buildings scattered around, just some cockroaches and lizards in them and stuff like that. So at least we have buildings. Okay, we should have power. Now the solar will really, really help. We should have water. Okay, okay. Even if we don't have a proper water system in Abuja, for example, at least we can do boreholes. At least.
Absolutely.
Okay. We should have what they call it, vaccines, consumables, pharmaceuticals and stuff, even the basic ones. Okay, and of course we should have basic equipment.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is an ideal. Okay, so for you to actually get this, at least one of these in each ward and stuff like that, you're going to have to spend money and resources, isn't it? Okay, and what we would like, of course, one of the other things, you would like digital technology as well.
Absolutely.
You would like information systems within the system, because one of the key strategies in terms of the human workforce deployment is the strategy of what we call task shifting and task sharing. If you look at our population of 230 million people, okay, we have less than 45,000 doctors. So you cannot get doctors to actually man your primary healthcare centers. Okay, so you now have to think innovatively. All these stuff I've talked about, when we talk about community health extension workers, community health officers and stuff like that, you now have to train them in a competence-based way. Competence-based way, not theory. You actually train them and say, oh, you should know this, you should know this, because this is what will make you. Do you understand? What will make you competent enough to be able to provide this level of care, okay, at that level. Now, the other question will be, okay, what level of care, what kind of services should people be accessing in a primary healthcare center? And I'll take you through them. First one is general health checks and things like, what do you call it? Things like health screenings. You go into a primary healthcare center, they check your BP, they can check your blood sugar and stuff like that. They can do pap smears, okay? They can do the simple basic everyday checks,
right?
Okay. Your vaccination and immunizations for your children and stuff like that's where they should actually really be. Okay, things like treatment for common illnesses, cold, flu, chest infections, malaria should be there. Okay, mental health support. Okay, minor injuries, and it should be from actually your primary healthcare centers that actually refer to the secondary level care or tertiary level care, and of course family planning. And at least when you talk about antenatal care, especially for the first or second trimester, in women who don't actually have any issues, they should be getting that in the primary healthcare facility. Right. So what I've just done so far, I've just given you an idea of an ideal primary healthcare center, what the staffing should be like, what they should need, okay, and the kind of services that they should actually provide.
Absolutely. And I cannot begin to talk about the gaps now because I can.
The gaps, Joy, are monstrous.
I am not in the medical sector.
Well, but you are in the community.
I'm in the community.
If Global TV were to actually go into the community, so we're in Abuja, isn't it? If we were to go into and do like a survey and actually maybe take like 62 of the communities, maybe divide it by 5, and so you get what 12 point something and stuff like that, and go to 12 of the wards and stuff like that, and actually go and do surveys of the communities and the individuals in that community and the people and citizens in that community, and ask them how this ideal that we talked about is your community, any of your primary healthcare centers or facilities actually serving you in terms of all these things that Dr. Semeka has just talked about an ideal primary healthcare center and stuff like that? Okay, so
I am overwhelmed listening to you because I mean, practically speaking, when you do go to these primary healthcare facilities, you don't see even half of the workforce you just mentioned. First of all, not to mention the facilities, they are dilapidated. You often hear with no apology that we do not have equipment for basic tests that you just mentioned. So, how then do you feel when you now read in the news that out of the 218 billion that we even criticized at the time, capital project fund appropriated to the health sector, only a paltry 36 million, barely 0.0165% was released to the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. How do you feel as one who is so interested in ensuring Nigerian patients get optimal
I think the first thing I'll say, Joy, is that I am not surprised at all. Nothing surprising here. I am not surprised.
Nothing surprising?
It is expected. Okay.
What in the structure of governance makes you this despondent and pessimistic?
It's not about being despondent and pessimistic. It's about, first of all, one of the things I say is that first of all, you must understand the reality that you're immersed in. Okay.
Oh, please.
Yes. So when you understand that reality, okay, then you now start making moves and taking actions to actually slowly move yourself out of that reality into the reality that you want. Okay. So first of all, let all of us understand that yes, while you might have seeming pseudo structures that look like governance, that look like you have governments in Nigeria, you do not have governance in Nigeria on a broad scale. Okay, so all of us must actually first accept that.
No, I fail to understand that.
Yeah.
We do not have governance on a broad scale.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So you might have the pseudo structures that look like you have a national government, you have a presidency, you have a national assembly.
Those are not pseudo structures. Those are in fact structures. One that we elected.
That is my own words. They are pseudo structures with respect to actually providing governance to the people. When you look at your constitution, okay, 1999 constitution as amended and stuff like that, and you look at what governments should be doing, their core responsibility and stuff like that. That's why I call them pseudo structures. That's my word. Okay, it's because so I call them pseudo structures from the point of view of actually delivering governance. So when you see 36 million naira out of 218 billion naira for capital projects for a country of almost 230 million people, and you see 36 million naira, I'm telling you, I am not surprised. It is expected.
That's where I fail to understand, because I don't expect it. I expect, in fact, more to be allocated to the Nigerian health sector because of the infrastructural deficit we already have.
So based on the how will I put it now? The philosophies, based on the attitudes, based on the culture, that our office holders have, and they've had for a very, very long time. That's why I'm saying I am not surprised. Okay, and I'm saying this is our reality at this particular point in time. Now, I'm not saying that it cannot change, but I'm saying this is our reality. And what I'm saying is that if we do not actually accept that this is our reality at this moment in time, okay, and we keep deceiving ourselves, then the ability to be able to actually make the actions and actually do the things to actually move out of this reality will keep playing to the gallery. So again, I repeat, I am not surprised at all that we actually have this kind of thing coming out in terms of the funding for healthcare in Nigeria. I'm not surprised, because for a very long time, our political office holders across both vertically and horizontally, they have not taken the governance for the people seriously, and they have not taken the key things that truly, really impacting the people's life in terms of giving them good governance and letting them fulfill lives in terms of them, their children, and they have not taken those things seriously. And guess what? Healthcare is one of them. It is one of those key fundamental socio-political priorities that our governments across board, like I said, horizontally, have not actually mainstreamed.
How do we mainstream healthcare? I mean, it goes without saying. One would think it should be a giving without even having this conversation.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be given.
Unfortunately,
so
how do we get
there's one of the things I say, Joy, is that there's nothing like free freedom. Freedom is not free.
Absolutely.
You must fight for it.
Right.
Okay. So the first thing is, the average Nigerian must know, first of all, that your reality is that your political office holders are not going to take you seriously. That is your ground zero. You must understand that first. When you
in spite of the leverage they have in electing these police, I'm not sure.
So the FCT elections just came and went through. Did you see the average Nigerian citizen showing and coming out to actually saying, hey, we want to make our voices heard?
Unfortunately, I observed that elections with a lot of concern, because I didn't see that much. But it does not change the fact that the electorates determine who emerges in public offices. So if you all have the leverage in ensuring you get this political office or re-elected, why are we not using the leverage and holding governments accountable for basic healthcare services?
I would say is just a general lack of understanding by the Nigerian citizens, and that's why we're doing this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's why we're talking about this now. That's why I am telling the average Nigerian citizen now. Do you understand? This is your reality. Okay, if you want to change this reality, there are things that you actually have to do. Okay, don't expect your average political office holder to have a light bulb moment and start changing his mind about how they actually go to prioritize and how they actually go to focus the resources and actually do things that actually enable the lives of people. Don't expect that. Okay, now they can actually use the phrase that we are at war. Do you understand? In Nigeria, we are at war. Okay, and so if the average Nigerian citizen doesn't understand that we are at war, where you actually have to fight, you understand, and make sure that you put sustained positive pressure on your political office holders, either during when they are, during the time of them when they're supposed to provide governance, or during the time of campaigns and elections, you understand, to actually bring up the key issues and say, hey, you want to be a councillor in our local government. You want to be our local government chairman. You want to be our House of Assembly member, representing us in the state and stuff like that. You want to be a House of Rep member, representing us nationally. You want to be a senator. You want to be our governor. You want to be our president. Can you please ask them the fundamental, very important questions? Our healthcare system is broken. For example, we're talking about primary healthcare now, isn't it? So you should ask yourself. The latest FCT elections was about local governments, and guess where primary healthcare is.
Of course, it's in the local.
It's in the local governments, and within the AMAC, for example, the Abuja Municipal Area Council and stuff like that, you had less than 8% of people coming out to come and vote and come and say, hey, I feel that this person will do justice to our 62 primary healthcare centers and stuff. I feel this person will do justice. I feel like I put pressure on this person to do this and stuff like that. They were not found anywhere.
It's unfortunate. I mean, we had a good number of contestants, and all of them with a lot of them rather with potentials. I mean, having looked at their antecedents for some of us who took the time. And so it's not a case of I do not trust that this person. I mean, if you don't trust this person, there must be somebody in the ballot that you trust. So is it disillusion that is causing this lack of this apathy, basically, or we are having we have a generation of people, citizens, who are just not interested and have resolved to having to solve their problems themselves?
I think, let me put it this way, knowledge is power.
Right.
Okay, knowledge is power. We should start grooming citizens moving forward now, at least from this last FCT election. We should start grooming citizens to start understanding some fundamental things and actually be very good students of history. No people have ever, you understand, pushed through and actually done well for themselves as individuals, as groups, as communities and stuff like that by just staying back. You understand? I'm saying, oh, I'm being defeated, being acting like conquered people, I'm acting like people who are defeated and stuff like that. No, you understand? You must put in the good fight. You understand? Because guess what? Whatever people who are actually either selected or elected or whatever they are when they come into power, it is the decisions that they make that are going to affect your lives, determine what's going to happen to you, happen to your children, your children's children moving forward and stuff like that. So I think exactly like I said, what we are doing here, we are educating the citizens to let them know that, man, until you actually rise up, okay, and actually speak in any way, either speaking by coming out, by educating yourselves, opening your minds to actually being educated, because that's another thing. Not closing up your mind. What we are doing now, we are trying to open up their minds to actually understand and connect the dots.
Absolutely.
Really connect us to know that, man, that this politics, this electing people into different offices and stuff like that, it will determine what's going to happen with your lives.
Absolutely.
And healthcare is so fundamental, especially primary healthcare, that is practically non-existent. Okay, and electing people as councillors and local government chairman, for example, determines whether the primary healthcare centers are going to be taken seriously or not.
Now, I mean, speaking about educating people, do you think it's education that's making them bypass the primary healthcare straight to the tertiary and secondary healthcare hospitals, or it is just that it has the primary healthcare has over the years been abandoned and all of that? And why do you think attention has not been put in this primary healthcare that is most important and really closer to the masses?
It's simple. Because the primary healthcare setting and system has not been prioritized for a very long time, okay, and the people have not been educated and empowered enough to actually understand the importance of it, okay, and it's just a situation where, okay, yeah, things are bad and stuff like that. We will find a way around it. So as a people, we keep finding a way around, we keep accepting mediocre things and stuff like that, and we just run with it like that, okay. But I am saying that we can change that by, first of all, changing the minds of the people, okay, making the people understand and know there's if your local governments and wards and stuff like that, if they have resources that actually deployed for primary healthcare and stuff like that, we should actually make that work. Of course, because we know that the primary healthcare system is so foundational to providing care for especially this kind of population, a population where you have significant number of very poor people. Significant number of very poor people. When you have significant number of poor people like that, your main aim and your main thrust of providing healthcare should be promotive and preventive.
Exactly.
And guess where you do that? It's at the primary care level. You know, it is better that your grandma, that a grandmom or a grandma in the village does not have a stroke from the fact that she has poorly controlled diabetes and hypertension because the primary healthcare center is not working, than for her to have a stroke and bring her to a tertiary hospital where when you get her into the ICU and stuff, she's going to be spending about 6 million, 10 million.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why the primary healthcare centers and that basic level of care has to work. Of course, because we are very top heavy in terms of the way we provide governance in Nigeria, where the federal government is so strong, and in terms of the devolving of autonomy to the states and local governments and stuff like that, we have issues with that, where we keep talking about, oh, we are not running the federal system, it's more of a unitary system and stuff like that. As long as we are running this kind of system, at least at this particular point in time, we need federal government to actually get
primary healthcare facilities
for one per ward.
That was like 3 million.
It was like 3.6 million naira.
3.6 million naira. That's how much you take for maybe a borehole. And that
after that, what next?
And that.
Okay, so now again, remember, okay. Somebody might tell you, oh, but do we have the amount of resources for all this and stuff? Of course, we don't have all the resources in the world. Absolutely. We are a poor country when you look at GDP and look at the population and stuff like that. But the question now is, Nigerian citizens, look at your office holders. How are they prioritizing Okay, the limited funds that you have. If you say that you look at the sustainable development goals and healthcare and education are number 3 and number 4. So let's use the FCT as an example. So sometimes people talk say, oh, FCT administration, they are doing a fantastic job. Look at their flyovers here and that and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's stroll to some of the primary healthcare centers. Let's stroll to some of the primary schools and stuff, the public primary schools and stuff like that, and see how well they are doing.
Education and
because it is a lie from the pit of hell, Joy, for you to think that because in the main center or your city center and stuff like you have flyovers and stuff like that, and the people all around are suffering, they don't have primary healthcare centers that work with them, they don't have primary schools that work with their children and stuff like that, and you say you are developing. That is a lie from the pit of hell. That is not development. Development is about pushing resources to the things that impact in a significant number of your population. That is what, even when you talk about the Human Development Index, the HDI, okay, they still bring out healthcare, bring out education, pulling people out of poverty and stuff like that. Okay, so again, educate Nigerians. Let Nigerians know that, no, they understand. Don't be fooled and think that, because somebody's doing one flyover somewhere, somebody's doing an airport in your state. Somebody says, oh, they are a state where their primary healthcare system is abysmal and very weak. They now tell you that, oh, we are building a tertiary hospital and it is state of the art and stuff like that. And they pump millions into it. And then there's some people now go there, they now commission it and you see everybody dancing. Hey. Say, oh, they say our governor is a project governor and stuff like that. We need to educate the people. Right. Okay, that our limited resources should be pushed toward things that actually truly enable the lives of the people, especially that last man standing in that local government, in that ward, in that rural place. Right. Until we get to that point, we are joking. Okay, right. And I'm saying that Nigerian citizens, please rise up. Know yourself.
Know yourself. That's a good time to go for a short break. There's so much still to discuss. As an advocate and reform, it will be good to know how we can strengthen and ensure accountability in our systems. Stay with us. This is Razep Africa. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Welcome back from that. We are discussing revitalizing the healthcare facilities in Nigeria, talking about the reforms, talking about the future of community health, examining realities on the ground, the impact of recent government allocation, and exactly what must change to ensure primary healthcare truly works for every Nigerian. I was asking for how we can achieve accountability where in a country where it seems like the citizens are so divided divided. I understand the need for awareness, but we have citizens where you come up with, let's hold these government officials accountable for it, ensure that dividends of democracy is delivered, and you hear very superficial reasons like, oh, is it because this one is from my country or my state or my religion, now you want to hold him accountable and then maybe shake things up, maybe he will now, don't disturb him until, so we have very unfortunate reasons why people would not be interested. But as a healthcare reform advocate, how can we improve our accountability systems? How can we strengthen it to ensure that these funds for the rich, like frontline facilities, and are properly utilized?
Okay, so first of all, massive advocacy and education of the people. Massive education.
Who champions this?
So who champions it? First of all, the political office holders will not champion
Absolutely
it. So
not.
let's leave them out.
Right.
So the media. So the media's job is what? To entertain, to inform, to educate, but also to set the agenda as well. And that's why, while I appreciate that media, okay, they have to make their own money, they have to have sponsors and stuff like that, okay? So yes, they can pander to what brings them money, but also they can, from the point of view of being, what's the word now, of being statesmen, stateswomen, states groups and stuff like that, actually set the agenda for things. Okay, can set the agenda for things. And of course, if you have 17 sustainable development goals and healthcare is number 3 and education is number 4, please, the media should actually set those as an agenda. So the media has a major role to play. And I'm not talking about a lazy role of just sitting in one place and talking. I'm talking about proper investigative journalism.
Like what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm talking about proper investigative journalism. Actually going, yes, for example, actually doing, I gave an example, 62 words in Abuja,
FCT.
okay, and then doing some sort of some research work, very good journalistic research work, where you actually go, you divide them, and maybe you say 12 out of these communities, and let it be actually in terms of your sample size and stuff like that. Go and actually pick a good number of people and actually interrogate them about their primary healthcare center, and go to the primary healthcare centers in those 12 places and stuff like that. Come up with reports.
Absolutely.
Okay, come up with reports and actually tell Nigerians, well, Nigerians, this is what an ideal primary healthcare center is supposed to be like. This is what they're supposed to have. But this is what we have.
Right.
This is what needs funding. Okay, while we appreciate that, people want to do roads and flyovers and stuff like that, when it comes to prioritization of, okay, we have limited resources. Okay, what should we do first with these resources? Okay, do we carry 39 billion and go and sort out a conference center first? Or do we use this 39 billion and say, oh, if we put this into the primary healthcare centers and put it into the primary schools in the 62, or maybe some right. Which one will make a significant impact on the people's lives?
Exactly.
Okay, so the media has its work cut out for it. Second group of people, okay, the healthcare professional bodies and associations.
Right.
Okay, and there are a couple of them. Okay, I always remind people that healthcare is not about doctors. There are other healthcare professionals. You have medical lab scientists, you have physiotherapists, you have radiographers, you have midwives and nurses, you have doctors, you have dentists, you have pharmacists. So you have different healthcare. So all their groups as well. Apart from the fact that yes, they should also go out and actually do advocacy for themselves first of all. You have to actually create good environments for us to provide care for Nigerians and stuff like. You have to actually be able to pay us well and stuff like. So we don't jackpot and stuff like that. They should also, by extension, knowing that they themselves are healthcare providers, that all of us, there's one thread that goes through all of us. Guess what that is? All of us are going to be patients at one particular point in time in our life. All of us. Nobody can escape it.
Absolutely.
All of us will actually go to a hospital, need healthcare at one particular point in time. Nobody, there's nobody that can escape it. Okay, so the healthcare provider, and that's one of the things I say, Joy, that when I advocate about healthcare, I advocate from the point of view of me being a patient myself, not being a doctor. So that makes me a little bit more objective. Okay, so all the healthcare professionals, apart from, like I say, advocating for themselves, in terms of, they should also advocate for healthcare for Nigerians as well. Am I seeing that? Yes, in terms of looking at most of these healthcare providers, I am not. Most of them play to the gallery. They want to play politics as well. Most of them don't want to speak up and stuff like that. And that's not good enough.
Absolutely.
Of course, you have like faith-based organizations. You have the civil society as well and stuff like that. You have the Nigerian Bar Association. These are different groups that should be talking about healthcare, that should be setting this as an agenda. Guess what? We are moving to 2027. Elections are coming. and stuff like that, instead of talking about things that I don't understand and stuff like that. These are the issues that we should be talking about. The primary healthcare system in Nigeria that's supposed to be the bedrock to provide care, especially in a country where you have very many poor people. World Health Organization, we're going to turn into 140 million multidimensionally poor people and stuff like that. You need your primary healthcare system to work. If your primary healthcare system does not work, you have failed as a country in such a situation. Okay? So these are the groups. And of course, the average Nigerian needs to be empowered. Do you understand too? So the key thing is about demanding. And so again, I go back to these last elections that just passed. If you had like 65%, 75% of people coming out to vote and so that's a particular way of demanding.
Absolutely.
It's actually showing them, hey, I am demanding.
Yes.
Do you understand? Okay, maybe this person is in office now. This person so far has been in office for the last 4 years. I cannot see our primary healthcare centers working and stuff like that. Okay, now we are going to give somebody else a chance. We are going to come out en masse and vote somebody else in and stuff like that. Okay, then that person messes up too.
That's the biggest protest.
Yeah, that person messes up for the next 4 years. They will say, oh, we have the power to remove you. Right. Since you didn't take our primary healthcare centers seriously and stuff like that, this thing that is supposed to help our lives, our children's lives, our mothers, our fathers and stuff like that, we are going to vote you out. So different strategies of demanding, like I said, those groups and at least using the polls as a tool as well to actually demand.
So we also have the very important issue of Nigerians still having to pay out of pocket for health services, and has that made or mar the whole process, especially when we talk about the primary healthcare facilities. A lot of people are so afraid to even go to government structured hospitals or any hospital whatsoever, and would rather get to traditional methods and all sorts of quacks who claim they are. I had a conversation with someone who said there's a nurse in my area. A nurse in my area has run a test, has diagnosed.
You can't blame the person.
Exactly.
But
what are the reforms, financial reforms you would suggest that you would recommend to reduce this burden? Because, I mean, it's a burden on ordinary citizens.
Okay, so there's this thing called GROWTH. What's that?
Right.
Growth.
Right.
Okay, so what does growth mean? It means starting from here and going from here. So sometimes, I think if you look at our ministries, departments, and agencies and some of the kind of reforms they try to throw in sometimes, they look like they want to start from here instead of starting from here. So for example, you need a social health insurance scheme, first of all, that is coordinated. Very important. Coordinated. That means if you have a community-based one, a state one, the national one, they should all be coordinated.
Right.
Very, very coordinated. So you need data. You need to know who is where and stuff like that. That's number one. Number two, depending on how you move the resources and where you're moving the resources from. Okay, there are different places, I'm sure, that with all the tax laws that they have, there are different places you're going to be mobilizing resources from, isn't it? But like I said, you start from the base first. So guess where the best place to actually put your resources in terms of actually funding healthcare from an insurance point of view? It is your primary healthcare.
But whatever happened to the conversation of universal healthcare? I mean, we had this conversation over and over. One time, the government seemed to look like they were intentional.
What's that thing called? Audio? What's that thing called? Audio?
Audio speeches.
Audio, whatever.
Audio promises.
So, John, it's easy to launch things. It's easy to this policy and stuff like that. But you know the most difficult part? The most difficult part is actually doing the work, painstaking work, to actually translate those launchings, those things into reality. And of course, when you want to implement and translate things into reality from policy level, from launching level, from speeches, nice speeches and stuff like that, what do you need? You need the political will, but you also need the resources in it. So there goes again the issue of the priorities of resources and where you're actually putting your limited resources. Okay? If a government comes in, okay, and you have about 300 and something House of Rep members and about 109 senators, okay, and you take each of them and give each of them an SUV, this is 160 million naira, okay, and you do not have ambulances in terms of when you look at your emergency service system and stuff like, you don't have any ambulances and all that, but you can buy each person a 160 million. Priorities, okay. But what I'm saying is that the default setting of your political office holders across board is going to be behaving like that. That's their default setting. They are going to continue behaving like that. That is our reality. So the question now that the question I'm asking moving forward is, Nigerian citizens, what is your response to this? Is your response a situation where you have FCT elections, okay, and then you stay away because somebody has put sort of this cover on your eye that, oh, your votes are not going to count. Okay, so there's a war to fight. Okay, or usually wars entail different battles and stuff like that. And you say, okay, to win, don't worry, I'm not even going to fight at all. I'm just going to. There's no need.
And this is a very important battle that could have, you will come out absolutely better off in your in your livelihood. But I tell people that the politics determines the quality of even the air you breathe.
Absolutely.
The quality, I mean, if it determines the quality of the air you breathe, what else is there? I mean, what other justification do I have to give you to be part of this civic duty that determines your leaders? It's unfortunate where we found ourselves, where a lot of people are disillusioned and would rather not engage at all.
That's why we need to do this. We need to educate them.
Exactly.
Well, that's why we're doing this. We're telling them.
If you have to suggest, I mean, I've listened to your suggestion for especially the media, and it's something that I personally have taken over the years and trying to do my bit in ensuring that healthcare services are available to especially the underserved communities. However, you mentioned the associations. What often impedes their move? I mean, these are independent associations that could look government in the eye and say, you are ignoring us, and this is a very important sector.
I think it's a combination of things. So, for example, let's take again this election that just passed. Okay,
right.
So if you look at the Abuja Municipal Area Council, it is this is I think this is one of the local governments in Nigeria that actually houses the intelligentsia, right? Most of them actually stay there, in terms of the doctors, the nurses, the lawyers, do you understand? The people who are supposed to be the middle class, the professional class, they are within this space, and they are the ones that have had less than 8% turnout to actually determine the person who is probably supposed to be sorting out things like their water, their primary healthcare centers, the primary schools and stuff like that. Okay, because they didn't actually get involved and stuff like that. So again, if you look at most of these professional health associations, they are the same people. They are the same middle class people.
Of course.
So you can see a thread in terms of behavior and attitude across, isn't it? Second thing is, there's this tendency, like you rightly said, where you have these issues being thrown in of, oh, the tribe, religion, and stuff like that. You know, it's like, oh, our man is the one there. Now you want to give our. So again, what me and you did is actually even educating them as well. That hey, there's a common thread across us. When you actually go into a hospital, either be a secondary hospital, we're talking about primary, but when you go to a secondary level hospital or a tertiary hospital and stuff like that, and there's no capacity to actually look after you, do you understand? You who is a doctor, a nurse and stuff like that, you are going to die.
Exactly.
Do you understand? Sorry, do you understand? It's a common thread. Whether it is your person that is in the president or your person that's the president of the Senate and stuff like that.
When there are flaws in the system that has not been addressed, it would affect you as well.
Anybody and everybody. I usually say this in that it's turn by turn PLC. That's what Nigeria does. Everybody, all of us are victims waiting to happen. Do you understand? Just the same way, do you understand, in the southwest of Nigeria, their primary healthcare centers are not working. It's the same way in the southeast part of Nigeria, north central, northeast, all over Nigeria. Okay, so the earlier those professional those health professional organizations and associations and bodies, the earlier they start actually stepping up to the plate.
Absolutely.
You understand? And actually start talking about the issues. The issues, you're not insulting you're not talking about any specific person. You're talking about the issues that are affecting all of us that need to be addressed.
Exactly.
Okay? But there's just this tendency for them to play to the gallery. I'm using this medium now to tell the health professional organizations and associations in Nigeria across board. While I appreciate that you actually have to actually advocate for yourselves, okay, it is incumbent on you from the point of view that you are a privileged few, to speak up for Nigerian citizens as well and educate and empower them with information.
Absolutely. And that's where I wanted to go with my next question. We're running out of time, so I just wanted to quickly tell us, if you had the ear of policymakers, those who sit down and ensure that not just the laws are made, but implementation of it and allocation, because that seems to be a very big issue at the moment in the health sector. What are the 3 immediate actions that you would recommend to accelerate meaningful transformation in the primary healthcare, especially?
Number 1, deploy resources properly. Okay, I always say, think right, act right, and spend right.
Right.
From the point of view of making laws in terms of the National Assembly and the State House of Assemblies and stuff like that, make laws that will actually push resources to things like primary health care, okay, and basic education. Extremely important. Number two, please, this thinking that you're omnipotent and you're so powerful and stuff like that, nobody stays in power forever. Okay? Well, and all of us, nobody lives forever as well. Okay? Please think of what you're going to be remembered for as individuals and as a group. Extremely important. Is the third one, Abi?
Do we still think about
that's my advice to them. It's an advice. You can take it or you can leave it. Okay? And beware. Because when you actually march on people's heads and step on people's heads like this and not care about them and you push them to the wall and stuff like that, I don't know how sustainable this is. So please, our politicians, our office holders and stuff like that, please beware. I know that your default setting is not to actually take the Nigerian setting seriously and do whatever you think you like and stuff like that, but please beware.
Right. And when you studied in the UK, you studied in other parts of the world, and you're back to Nigeria, what often is the process when there's deficit like this, especially in the healthcare systems? What do citizens do immediately to ensure that something is done to bring about the reform that we keep advocating?
So it's simple. You understand? Just demand accountability at different levels. At individual level, i.e. the healthcare professionals you're dealing with, at facility level, at ministry, department, agency level, and of course at your political office holders. Okay? Like I said, last couple of days, in Abuja, the Abuja residents lost the opportunity to actually make a demand. And show them we are the ones that actually have the power to actually be able to dictate what happens in our space with respect to how governance is provided to us.
For those who maybe are disillusioned and telling themselves that this conversation, we've had it over and over, what are we going to do differently? What's your final suggestions to Nigerians listening to you right now?
What I will say is that Nigerians, okay, you do not win a fight, okay, or you have different battles that when you look at a war and stuff like that, the key thing to do is to be courageous, and actually fight the battles. Even when you fight a battle and you lose, when you fall down, okay, you dust your body and you get up again and you move. That is how societies grow and become strong, okay? But like I always say, the Nigerian patients are worth it.
That's his boss phrase. The Nigerian patients are worth it. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka Douglas Oko. Thank you for sharing your insights and for your continued advocacy towards strengthening Nigeria's healthcare systems. Conversations like this, of course, are critical if we want to move from policy to promise and to tangible progress. Thank you again.
Gracias, Joy, and gracias, Global TV. The Nigerian patients are worth it.
The Nigerian patients are absolutely worth it, but this is where we end today's edition of Razep Africa. Stay with us. Rest assured, we'll be back next time with so much more. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the day.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11.